The life of Consuelo Vanderbilt. Born in New York City, Consuelo Vanderbilt was the only daughter and eldest child of William Kissam Vanderbilt, a New York Railroad millionaire, and his first wife, a Southern belle and budding suffragist Alva Erskine Smith, from Mobile, Alabama. Consuelo was a member of the immensely rich and as a result influential Vanderbilt family of New York. They were considered in their time American royalty. Her great-grandfather, the Commodore, had amassed the family's wealth through his success in railroads and shipping. At the time of his death he was worth $100 million. Her grandfather, William Henry, eventually doubled that sum to $200 million, making them one if not the richest family of the Golden Age. Her Spanish name was in honor of her godmother, Consuelo Iznaga, a half-Cuban, half-American socialite who created a social stir a year earlier when she married the fortune-hunting George, Viscount Mandeville, a union of old-world aristocracy and new-world money. Consuelo Vanderbilt was largely dominated by her mother, who was determined that her daughter would make a great marriage like that of her famous namesake. In her autobiography, Consuelo Vanderbilt described how she was required to wear a steel rod, which ran down her spine and fastened around her waist and over her shoulders, to improve her posture. She was educated entirely at home by governesses and tutors, and learned foreign languages at an early age. Her mother was abusive and whipped her with a riding crop for minor infractions. Like her godmother, Consuelo Vanderbilt attracted numerous title-bearing suitors anxious to trade social position for cash. Her mother reportedly received at least 5 proposals for her hand. Consuelo was allowed to consider the proposal of just one of the men, Prince Francis Joseph of Battenberg, but she developed an instant aversion to him. None of the others, however, was good enough for Alva Vanderbilt, herself the daughter of a cotton broker. Consuelo Vanderbilt was considered a great beauty. She came to embody the slim, tight look that was in vogue during the Edwardian era. Determined to secure the highest-ranking mate possible for her only daughter, a union that would emphasize the preeminence of the Vanderbilt family in New York society, Alva Vanderbilt engineered a meeting between Consuelo and the indebted, titled Charles Spencer Churchill, 9th Duke of Marlborough, Chatelaine of Blenheim Palace. The matchmaker was a minor American heiress turned major English hostess, Lady Paget, born as Mary Minnie Stevens. Lady Paget was the daughter of Paran Stevens, the socially ambitious widow of an American hotel entrepreneur. Lady Paget, always short of money, soon became a sort of international marital agent, introducing eligible American heiresses to British noblemen. Consuelo Vanderbilt had no interest in the Duke, being secretly engaged to an American, Winthrop Rutherford. Her mother cajoled, wheedled, begged, and then, ultimately, ordered her daughter to marry Marlborough. When Consuelo, a docile teenager whose only notable characteristic at the time was abject obedience to her fearsome mother, made plans to elope, she was locked in her room as Alva threatened to murder Rutherford. Still she refused. It was only when Alva Vanderbilt claimed that her health was being seriously and irretrievably undermined by Consuelo's stubbornness, and appeared to be at death's door that the malleable girl acquiesced. Consuelo Vanderbilt married the 9th Duke of Marlborough at St. Thomas Episcopal Church, New York City, on November 6, 1895. Had 2 sons, John Albert William Spencer Churchill, Marquis of Blandford, who became 10th Duke of Marlborough, and Lord Ivor Spencer Churchill. The new Duchess was adored by the poor and less fortunate tenants on her husband's estate, whom she visited and to whom she provided assistance. She later became involved with other philanthropic projects and was particularly interested in those that affected mothers and children. She was also a social success with royalty and the aristocracy of Britain. However, given the ill-fitting match between the Duke and his wife, it was only a matter of time before their marriage was in name only. A few years into their marriage, Consuelo reconnected with Winthrop Rutherford and went on to spend 2 weeks in Paris with him, Soon after, she confessed to her husband that she loved Rutherford and wished to elope with him, but he later refused her. In despair. She may also have had an affair with the artist Paul César Hellieu, who portrayed her several times in his sketches and pastel artwork. The artist's daughter believes that Hellieu and Consuelo probably had an affair between 1900 and 1901, which continued after his return to Paris, where she visited him and sat for him again. By this time the Duke and Duchess had completely stopped being intimate, and soon the Duke fell under the spell of Gladys Marie Deacon, an eccentric American of little money but, like Consuelo, dazzling to look at and of considerable intellect. After the Duchess affair and planned elopement with the married Charles Vane Tempest Stuart, 7th Marquess of Londonderry, the Marlboroughs separated in 1906, divorced in 1921, and the marriage was annulled, at the Duke's request and with Consuelo's assent, on the 19th of August, 1926. To the surprise of many, also was fully supported by the former Duchess's mother, who testified that the Vanderbilt-Marlborough marriage had been an act of unmistakable coercion. Consuelo's second marriage, on July 4, 1921, was to Lieutenant Colonel Jacques Balsan, a record-breaking pioneer French balloon, aircraft, and hydroplane pilot who once worked with the Wright brothers. Also a textile manufacturing heir, Balsan was a younger brother of Etienne Balsan, who was an early lover of Coco Chanel. After the annulment of her marriage to the Duke of Marlborough, she still maintained ties with favorite Churchill relatives, particularly Winston Churchill. He was a frequent visitor at her chateau, in St. George's Motel, a small commune near Droz about 50 miles from Paris. During the interwar period, she and Winnaretta Singer-Polignac, the Princesse de Polignac and Singer sewing machine Heiress, worked together in the construction of a 360-bed hospital destined to provide medical care to middle-class workers. The result of this effort is the Foch Hospital, located in Heiress, a suburb of Paris, France. The hospital also includes a school of nursing and is one of the top-ranked hospitals in France. Records in Florida show that in 1932 Consuelo Vanderbilt Balsan built a home in Manalapan, Florida, just south of Palm Beach. It was designed as a love nest by Maurice Fatio. The dream home of 26,000 square feet is called Casa Alva, in honor of her mother. Consuelo Balsan published her insightful but not entirely candid autobiography, The Glitter and the Gold, in 1953. It was ghostwritten by Stuart Preston, an American writer who was an art critic for the New York Times. A reviewer in the same paper called it an ideal epitaph of the age of elegance. Consuelo Balsan died at Southampton, Long Island, New York, on December 6, 1964. She was buried alongside her younger son, Lord Ivor Spencer Churchill, in the churchyard at St. Martin's Church, Blaydon, Oxfordshire, England, near her former home, Blenheim Palace. Consuelo Vanderbilt was a truly inspirational woman. A tragically molded young girl who came to be a highly admired philanthropist, mother, and survivor of an arguably difficult and merciless upper-crust world.